When I think about my AAPI heritage, I think about my mom saying, "Tell them you're Taiwanese, not Chinese." And this happened when I met new people, when I filled out forms, and I didn't understand the distinction as a kid or why she was so adamant about it. But now, as I got older, it was clear that this was just her way of trying to preserve her heritage. Of course, Taiwan itself as a country has had a very tumultuous time, being invaded by many different cultures and countries over a long, illustrious history. But most recently, of course, it was invaded by China in 1949, to the point where the language is almost now extinct, because when they came over and imposed martial law, they were punished for speaking the native language. Therefore, actually today, Mandarin is the national and most spoken language there, and Taiwanese is all but dead. And my mother, as I grew up, wanted to preserve that history and that culture as much as possible. And she tried to teach us, but I never got the hang of it, and it always hurt me in the idea that I wasn't doing enough to preserve that culture. Being half white also gave me a difficult perspective of the idea that I was diluting this heritage even more. And even today, in this past year, I've had people say, "You don't get it. You're not really Asian." And it hurts me very deeply as I try to embrace and preserve the culture as much as I can. Coming to Anderson, I was very lucky to make my best friend Andy, who actually happens to be Taiwanese and speak Taiwanese, which thrilled my mother beyond words. She loves when I get to see Andy on Zoom, and I always ask Andy to teach me new words and phrases. So Anderson has actually been amazing in the sense of me helping to preserve my culture by bringing me someone who shares this culture that I had never been able to share with anyone before. So it's a wonderful thing that we have these communities and that I'm hoping to reignite some of this cultural preservation. But it's really important that we be aware that especially AAPI isn't all one thing, all one culture, and that everyone has their own story, their own history, and their own significance.